Hey Todd, do you want to or Scholar, do you want to put in your this YouTube link and edit into your post for my announcements?
Oh yeah, where is it?
Hey Todd, do you want to or Scholar, do you want to put in your
Yeah, can you hear me, Martin?
yes.
Yeah, so do you have the link? Are you sending it on Discord?
Yeah, I posted in the in the general and the holders.
All right. So, let's see. So I'll just post it over here in mine.
Whoever's in here already, just bear with us just a couple of seconds while we get everything
Just a
set
moment,
up.
guys. And we'll let everybody come in as well to join.
I think it's okay if you want to add everyone in the post too.
Okay.
And then we'll get started here in just a moment. It's being recorded, so if you have material, I assume you want to share your screen, right?
Yeah, in just a moment.
Okay.
Ready. Okay. Everyone can let us know in the chat if you can hear us clearly and if there's any sound issues or video issues. Let us know.
All right. Well, welcome everybody.
Martin, did you want to do a quick introduction and I'll do the main one?
Sure. So I am Martin Papp in the Discord. You may know me as co-president Harry. And we today are hosting with Excalibur, the Indiana Gems Raiders of the Lost Alts, where we will be going over techniques and strategies that Excalibur uses to find gems. And when we say gems, what we mean are small micro cap cryptocurrencies, whether those are different blockchain technology, startups, companies, whatever. You're finding them and you're bringing them to ATCC. And now you're going to share a little bit about strategies involved that get you to that point.
Yeah,
this is being recorded, so let's just get started.
Thank you very much, Martin. This is Excalibur here, guys. It's great to be here with all of you. I was asked this a couple of times by some of our members to do a little bit of a review on how to do some gem hunting. So now it's like, damn, guys, you're making me give away all my secrets. But okay, let's do that. I want everyone to understand that obviously everything here is not financial advice. It's just purely for educational and entertainment purposes. If you guys have any questions or anything like that, we'll save a time towards the end when we can take a few questions. Martin, I also asked, I asked him to please interrupt me as much as possible, intermittently, like in case there's anything that he believes might need clarifying or anything like that. So we'll just kind of have a conversation there and go over a couple of things. I apologize ahead of time if anybody might think this is a little too technical and all that, but I will try my best to make it as simplistic as possible. And also, I will rely on Martin for some comedic relief. So hopefully you can help me there.
I'll try to make this as fun as possible, but without Tyler, who has the real energy and passion, I'll do my best.
Yeah. So first things first that I want to tell everybody is that when you're doing any of these kinds of research, if you want to do your due diligence, honestly, it's a lot of reading, and it's just you're reading page after website page after website page again and again. There's a lot of things to look into, and if you're like me, then your ADHD is going to kick in and you're going to just keep on jumping from one thing to the next. And that's okay, you know, but just learn to try to stay focused and focus on your goals and note them all down, whatever it is that you need. But I'll give a sort of a breakdown of goals. Later on, I have a PowerPoint. It's just that it wasn't 100% finished, but I will, as soon as I'm completely done with it, I'll make sure to post that in our Discord channel for our holders so that you have at least a summary of the things that we talked about today, okay? So without further ado, let's just get started. I'm gonna share my screen. Martin, you'll have to enable that for me. So just quickly, just kind of going back through it, like I said, it's a lot of researching. And so what I tried to do for this is I like to give you guys as much substance as I possibly can. And I'd like to make it as concise as I can. So I broke it down into 3 parts. So I
have it now.
You have it? Okay. I broke it down into 3 parts. The very first part is, I call it the what. Okay. Don't look at the screen, look at me. I call it the what. Number 2, I call it the where. Number 3 is the how. Okay. So number 1, the what. Mastering what to look for. This is probably the most grueling part, but if you do it, I honestly believe that, at least for me, it expanded my knowledge about things like tokenomics and the problems in this space and the solutions in this space and what the best investment opportunities were. It consists of, over here I'm using CoinGecko, for example. CoinGecko is a great website. Everybody should use this tool. Another great one is CoinMarketCap in understanding the markets. Basically, what this website does is it sort of breaks down the market caps of all of the coins that are in existence, and some that might not have made it to the website yet as well, but those are usually extremely new ones. And then another thing to understand about CoinMarketCap, CoinGecko, is that you can save a lot of these different coins and you can compile them into different portfolios to kind of examine them. So that's something that I like to do as well. The main thing to do here, though, when doing this research is to jump into a few categories and try to understand blockchain technology. It might be tough to do that in the beginning, but that's why I said, what's the first step? Mastering the what. Okay, mastering what to look for. In order to do that, what I like to do is study the top, let's say, 20 cryptocurrencies, the top blue chips, basically, okay? I usually regard a blue chip as a coin that goes up to maybe somewhere between 1.5 to 2 billion in the market cap, okay? So usually my cutoff is somewhere around like number 50. Might be a little overwhelming to go this far, but let's just start with like the top 20. It's important in research to understand how it is that these blue chips made it. Maybe we can't go do an overall history of everything and breakdown of everything that's happened, but we can at least understand what these protocols are doing, what makes them so significant. So that's something that I did in the beginning. I knew that I wanted to look for altcoins and gems, and I wanted to look for solid ones. But in order to do that, I wanted to first understand fully, to the best extent, what makes all of these blue chips blue chips. What is so strong about them? Their ecosystems, the categories surrounding them, whether or not they had VC funding, the teams behind them, the deflation rate, and all kinds of different things. And so when I did that, I used this website first and I tried to break it down. So, usually if I go into something like Polkadot is one of my favorites. All the information is usually right here on the right tab, and I try to take a look at the different communities like Reddit, Telegram, and the network, and I just try to see, what's so strong about these communities in the first place. It's really, really important, I think, to understand these top coins in order to get an idea of how other gems and alts might function. I just want to note one thing, though, a side note. This doesn't mean that this formula is the only formula or that it's the only one that's going to work in the long term, because things can change. As more and more people adopt cryptocurrency, we have to become more adaptable. Okay, people might end up thinking that, Bitcoin doesn't really have use case for me. I'm not interested in it. I'm interested in Ethereum. I anticipate that one day Ethereum is probably going to surpass Bitcoin in market cap. I mean, it's conceivable that that might happen because of its utility. So we also need to learn to adapt as well. So that's something to keep in mind. So let's first understand these top coins before we get into any of the gems or alts that we want to research. Break them down into categories. What kind of categories are they doing? There's DeFi, there's gaming, there's blockchain technology. Blockchain technology is my favorite. ZK Rollups is another one. The Polkadot ecosystem is my favorite. But any one of these big ecosystems like Avalanche or Ethereum are really, really helpful and extremely important for being able to understand how the top coins influence other gems and alts. And that's another thing, by the way. Whenever you're breaking any of these things down, sometimes what happens is you have a coin, say Polkadot, okay? And if you look at Polkadot's chart, we see it looks a certain way, right? And we have this chart going like this. What I like to do is when I'm looking for a gem in the Polkadot ecosystem, I try to see how the chart of that gem compares with the chart of Polkadot versus the chart of, say, Bitcoin or Ethereum. Because sometimes the gems or alts that I'm researching follow the token, overseeing token of their ecosystem more so than our top market cap coins like Ethereum and Bitcoin. Here's a tool for that. Very, very easy for doing this, okay? Just, I recommend everyone note this down for your own use. If you download the CoinMarketCap app, if you download CoinMarketCap, there is a tool in there in which you can compare. You can compare charts of different coins, like 2 coins at a time. So what I do is I take that, and it's right, I mean, I'll just make sure to write it down. So CoinMarketCap, okay. I haven't seen this tool, by the way, on the actual website. That might be my own ignorance, but I mean, I couldn't find it there. But in the app, it's there, and I actually think the app is more helpful. Okay, so if you take out the app and you do that, you can compare different coins. So what I did is I actually had compared Polkadot and Kusama. Kusama is on the Polkadot ecosystem. Kusama's chart follows Polkadot seemingly a lot closer than it follows Ethereum. That's extremely important when learning about gems and alts, in my opinion, because it helps us understand how these varying ecosystems affect one another. You might hear some news about, maybe Kusama is on your radar. Then at some point, you might hear some news that Polkadot is doing some really big staking protocol or something like that. Now you might think to yourself, oh, you know what? Polkadot's price might shoot up, which means the coins under Polkadot's ecosystem, which get significantly affected by its chart, will also shoot up, likely. So then you might decide that you want to dollar cost average into Kusama a bit during that time. See, these are the little things that can affect this stuff. That's just understanding how these different ecosystems work. That's not necessarily finding and researching alts. I just want everyone to understand the basics here first. It's really important to get the basics down before we get to any of the advanced stuff. So that's something that, so I mean, CoinGecko is a great website, and I like to use this website whenever researching anything. So something that I like to do is let's do a little bit of research right now together. I might go into play to earn, let's say. Gaming is a really great category for me personally. And here we go. Everything is organized by market cap. I would usually, if I'm looking for any gems and alts, I mean, I really don't like gems and alts past rank 1000. They just really spook me. That's all. That doesn't mean I don't look. I just mean that I'm usually a little bit more cautious. And rank 1000 is usually where you see whether or not it crosses or less than 10 million. So $10 million market cap is typically, where there are degrees of caution that I have. And let's say I'm at mid-level caution, that's around 10 million. But I like to linger around the $10 million market cap, between 10 million and let's say 500 million. Okay, that's usually where I like to linger whenever I'm researching gems and alts. And then I'll find them. Gaming is its own category. It's a very interesting one, because what I would want to do is I'd actually look into the game. I'd see if it's playable, and I'd actually just go play it. I mean, do I like it? Do I think it's fun? And if I think it's fun, then I might actually consider dollar cost averaging into it. So mean, that's just gaming though. I mean, gaming is its own use case in that way, because I mean, I have played a lot of different play to earn games, and I can tell you that majority of them, they're not fun in my opinion. You know, I don't find them very fun. So that's why it's really hard for me to narrow down gaming coins in that sense. So, I mean, that's just understanding a coin like gaming or something like that. When it's other stuff, try and understand the use cases. So one category is ZK rollups. You won't find it here, by the way. And there's no category here for ZK rollups. I can tell you a few. I mean, there's obviously Loopring I've told you about. I've told you about Immutable X. And then there's a couple that have not actually had their initial crypto offering yet. And these are my first couple of alphas for you guys. So there's ZK Sync and StarkNet. These are two amazing, amazing ZK rollups in my opinion. The integration system and the protocols for these, you can actually use them. The coin is not available for investing yet, but they, you know, there's rumors that there will be a token in the future, but you know, they go and use their systems. That's the general rule of thumb when it comes to looking for any kinds of gems and alts. Try and see what the use cases are. Go and play around with their systems, whatever it is that they're offering. If it's usable at this point in time, I would probably go and try to use it and see if I think it's helpful or useful. I mean, you know, a lot of people, they invested into Optimism because of this, because of its utility was actually very useful. And people are like, you know, this is actually very useful. So that's why I'm going to end up investing into it. So that's one thing. So mastering the what includes, obviously, you know, understanding the basics, actually using the coins and seeing how their charts and their portfolios correlate with the ecosystem that might be overseeing it. All right, so those are probably the three things that fall under mastering the what. I mean, I typically call it a little bit of a like a trickle down method. So start off here, you know, like a funnel. All right, so understand that top tier and then break it down from there. All right. Now let's actually move on into where to look. Okay. Here are a couple of tools. So I obviously gave you CoinGecko, which is my favorite to use for an overall understanding of the market. So I'll give you another really cool tool. This is called DeFi Llama. Some of you already know, I'm sure. DeFi Llama, what it does is it breaks down a lot of altcoins, and this is specifically for DeFi, by the way, guys. And there's a lot of DeFi coins. It breaks down these DeFi coins, and you can do it based off of the different varying ecosystems. And one factor that it relies on and that it looks at, a variable that's very significant, is total value locked. There's not a whole lot of integration systems that provide information on total value locked. Total value locked obviously just means, you know, any amount of value that is locked for the actual system. Sometimes that can include staking. Sometimes that can include a liquidity pool. That can include all sorts of different things. You know, the idea is basically the value is locked within the system. So that means that that particular ecosystem within that coin is a lot stronger, has a very solid base, or a more solid base than maybe others. And what you can do is you can actually compare that. So check this out. You can see the total value locked for Ethereum, for example, is 38.69 billion. Now we all know why, you know, Ethereum has been pretty darn bullish. Ethereum has seemingly been more bullish than Bitcoin at certain integrals during the last few months. So let's actually look at a couple of things. So let's say I go into something like Solana. I want to look at layer 2s in Solana. And these are the varying ones, and they're organized based off of their total value lock. Total value lock, please do not confuse it with market cap. It's obviously not the same, but typically I've made the mistake of looking over here and I see TVL and everything's organized based on that, and all of a sudden I'm thinking market cap for whatever reason. It's not market cap, but a higher TVL has been associated quite strongly with a higher market cap, and then vice versa. Okay, so when I look here and I look at the TVL, I try to see how things have been maybe over the last, let's say, 7 days, and then maybe also over the last month, right? And that's how usually I might find a coin that I like. So one here that I can probably spot is one that's called Maple. And here's my first alpha of the day based off of one of these tools, guys. So Maple seems to have been doing really well, not only in the last day, but also over the last 7 days. And it actually has increased a little bit over the last month, despite the fact that we're in a bear. So let's actually check it out. And this whole tool, it does a breakdown based on how this coin has been doing within this ecosystem. You can do it based off of, the value in comparison with Solana, and also the US dollar value, right? You can include in the TVL the borrowed and the staking value. And then you can see how amazing it's doing with respect to that. I mean, as of recently. I actually do, I do apologize. I take that back. It's not that Maple is a alpha signal for me, but it is an interesting thing to look into. I typically stay away from any kind of crypto protocol that does any lending or borrowing. That's just for personal reasons. But this is something that's interesting that kind of does an implementation of a protocol. So check out their websites, and go from there. But I'll get to that part in a little bit. Let's first focus on, the knowing where to look. So this is a very, very awesome tool, is DeFi Llama. And if you guys ever have any questions, let me know, and whether it's the YouTube comments or even in Discord. And it breaks down a whole lot of things. And it's actually very, very useful. Total value locked is extremely useful, in my opinion, for investing long-term, even mid-term, sometimes even short-term. So it can really help us understand the varying alts in the different ecosystems. If you're looking for a solid layer 2, DeFi Llama is extremely helpful. All right, let's focus on something else. I'll give you a second tool. Well, technically third tool. This is called Crypto Panic. This is where I get my crypto news. It's really helpful. And I think that you might like it too. You can get all kinds of interesting news that has happened, whether it's something recently or within the last month, what are the biggest news, and you can kind of, you can filter things and take a look at what's going on. And then it'll take you directly, for example, to a website, where the news or the article might be coming from, for example. So let's say, for instance, this one, Shiba Inu rallies up. And then let's just take a look at that. Sorry, you just click on the title. Yeah, so you click on the title. And here we go. And so there's the news article right there. So what I've always tried to do is I try to look for platforms that have a compilation of all the different news articles, and then something that I could filter out, because a lot of news I'm not really interested in. Something that might be also helpful is to try to search, you have to first create an account, and once you can filter it in terms of what's important. You might even be able to do that now. So yeah, no, you'd have to create an account. So if you create an account, you can do that. And that's what I like to do. So that's the source for news. So the first couple of sources that I told you about were the tools to understanding of the varying systems, the charts, the TVL. And this is, by the way, for people who have a limited understanding of all of those complicated indicators, because I'm not a technical analysis guy. I'm more interested in news, and I'm more interested in overall look of a market, generally speaking. I would not say that I'm extremely technical in a lot of this stuff. So I like tools that are much more basic. So these are probably, CoinGecko and DeFi Llama are probably my top 2 tools in terms of understanding some of the varying ecosystems, the charts, and obviously, total value locked, etc. So, and then with respect to news and crypto news and finding anything on that, there's a lot of reading, like I said, when looking for any kinds of gems and alts. And for me, this is what I would look into. I'd look into Crypto Panic. That's number 1. Number 2 is something called, I'll write it down over here, Hungry Bull. It's an app. You download it on your phone. It has a lot of really great, not just crypto news, but even stocks, sometimes Forex, and overall, world news as well. But I enjoy it, and I don't like news that gets into other things that I'm not really as interested in, and so you might find it very helpful as well. So those are the 2 things, so Hungry Bull and then Crypto Panic are my top, my go-to platforms for crypto news. Okay. So that answers the second thing, which was knowing where to look. I guess I figured this out, didn't I? So anyways, let's see.
It's great stuff, by the way. We're listening, and I apologize to step out. My son was not cooperating. But I'm back.
All good. It's all good, Martin. All right. So how about real quick? I was going to do a future. There's an alpha signal that's coming next month. I was going to talk about it when I return because I'll be traveling. But I'll tell you guys now, since you all are here and everybody who's watching this video, a really, really great coin, in my opinion, that I've been doing a lot of research on as of lately is Ergo. I mean, this is you know, my analysis of this coin has made me believe that this thing has the possibility of becoming a future blue chip, has a possibility of doing that. Obviously, do your own research. It's not financial advice. This thing can just go to zero, but I'm just saying that it has some really solid funding, has an amazing team behind it. The protocol is awesome. I do believe it is layer one, and it's, you know, it's a really, really great alpha. And I'll do a full breakdown a bit later. But I wanted to introduce everyone to this, and I used this process in order to narrow it down to this. So this is a really, really great protocol to look into and platform. So I will likely be investing into Ergo within the next month or two. So let's see. The next thing to do, I talked about two things. I talked about mastering what to look for. The second thing I talked about is knowing where to look. The third thing is learning how to narrow it down. So this part is an interesting part. Remember when I said step one is mastering the what? The reason why I do that is to understand what the current blockchain systems are implementing. And that helps me pick up on whatever problems there might be. So for example, Ethereum, we all know the problems with Ethereum, right? You know, there's high gas fees, you know, it can be slow sometimes, and all sorts of stuff like lots of traffic, etc. So is there anything that can possibly solve that issue, right? That's trying to solve that problem is what helped me narrow down to finding ZK rollups. ZK rollups solve issues like that, especially with ecosystems like Ethereum. So if you want to find solutions to those problems, like gems that have those kinds of solutions and altcoins that have those kinds of solutions, an important thing to do is to find out what the problems are with the current systems. And the only way to do that is to understand them. I have to understand the current systems, and you know, that's why I said one of the things to do is to engage in those protocols, engage in those platforms, and see what their use cases are. I mean, not necessarily. You don't always have to use, you know, actual money to engage in some of these protocols. Sometimes, you know, like for example, when it comes to gaming, you can just go and play a game, you know, but other protocols, it might be a bit different. But try to understand, I mean, that's what I would try to do, is I would try to just engage with them. And sometimes that might be that, you know, I have to put a little bit of money in order to engage. And that helped me understand a lot of the issues that are existent within a lot of these systems. So that's one of the first things, is figure out the purpose behind it and the problems behind it. And that can help in sort of narrowing it down. Another thing to figure out, so that's number one, is problems and solutions for any given gem or altcoin. Another thing to figure out, number two, is venture capital funding. Venture capital, like, it's not hard to figure that out. It takes as simple as a Google search. You know, like, I mean, if we were to look at, for example, I mean, I've told you guys about Kadena before. I mean, there's loads of information with respect to, you know, the funding and investments that have gone into something like Kadena, right? And so that's one of the, whenever anything has that level of funding in it, then that checkbox can be checked, right? And so that makes it a lot easier in order to figure out a lot of these things. Is so understand and try to figure out whether or not something has had that, you know, VC funding and seed funding backing it up. And that is, I'm telling you, it's just as simple as a Google search and figuring something like that out. And the last team would be teams for me. So let's actually look at that. Let's look at Kadena, for example, which I've spoken about. And if we go to their website, you can find information here with respect to the teams that started this ecosystem. And from what I understand, it was two guys who used to work for JP Morgan as bankers. And damn, do they know their stuff. Where is that stuff, by the way, about there? Yeah, there we go. So, I mean, their advisor team, consists of Dr. Stuart Haber. We know that he's the co-inventor of the blockchain, and they have some really strong teams that back them up as well. I mean, these are really, really smart guys. And so that's one of the reasons why I ended up choosing this. So this space is not dominated by people with potential, I've noticed, because everybody does have potential. And I've always said that the space is dominated by experts. So finding the experts, that can sometimes be very difficult, but it just takes a little bit of research, a little bit of reading in order to figure out a lot of those things. Check out their LinkedIn profiles, check out what experiences that these individuals have gone, have gone through, and whatever different sorts of protocols that they've implemented it, the businesses that they've started, anything that they've done. Check it out and see what they've done and see how it is that they've implemented those things in the past. I found news articles, for example, on the co-founders of Kadena, and I would look into what it is that these guys are talking about. I'd see how they speak, for instance. Do they know what they're talking about, or are they just sort of regurgitating information like me? So this is very, very important in order to understand how it is that a token might do in the long term. In my opinion, that's something that can really, really help, because at the end of the day, this stuff is started by people, and people are extremely smart, and we have to find and narrow it down that way. And so let's sort of back it up and make sure that we understand what the breakdown of the varying parts of this was. So number one was mastering what to look for. Number two was knowing where to look. Number three is learning how to narrow it down. Give you a few tools and resources in order to implement some of that. Don't worry if you might need a little bit more information or anything, or maybe you want it in order or anything like that. As soon as I'm able to develop this complete PowerPoint and I'm able to give it to everyone, you'll have that breakdown in front of you, but you can always use this video as well. So the idea is use all the tools that are available, see what it is that can implement some of the best solutions in this space. And that can help you a lot in terms of narrowing down and finding the great gems that are in existence. So, and another thing that I like to do is I try to make sure that I'm not spread too thin amongst varying ecosystems. So for example, I know that AVAX has a lot of potential behind it. A lot of people talk about Solana's potential, Optimism's potential, etc. But I just pick one ecosystem and I stick with it. So for me, that's Polkadot. I stick with Polkadot's ecosystem and I try to understand it better than anything. Polkadot is more blockchain technology, but that's the idea. So, I mean, I'm not saying that that's what you should do, but it can really help in narrowing down a search. So if we were to look, for example, into Polkadot's ecosystem, here we are with all the varying different alts and coins that fall under it. Some of them I discovered don't necessarily follow the chart, the main chart of Polkadot, which is what I mentioned earlier. Kusama sort of does, I've noticed, but others, I've noticed that not all of them do. So it's important to sort of understand that, because it can help me see what direction these sort of different ecosystems and markets might end up going in. So if you follow these varying different things, these are basically a breakdown of my strategies whenever I'm trying to look for any kinds of gems and alts. And these are the resources that I use in order to do this. And to tell you the truth, guys, I mean, that's pretty much it. That's the breakdown of how to narrow down and research a lot of these coins. And if anybody has any questions, please let us know in the comments.
Thank you, Excalibur. That was thorough and concise. So would you say that in terms of all of these different things that you check, do you need to reach a certain threshold? So for example, would you invest in one of these micro caps or small caps if you couldn't say, for example, find that they've received seed funding? Or if you couldn't find very much information on the founders, are those deal breakers for you, or are you just kind of looking at it all together and kind of creating an overall picture?
That's a great question. No, I wouldn't just turn my back on it if it has a strong support with respect to the other factors in my checklist. So, for example, I looked into Lossless. I remember I talked about, right? Lossless did eventually get some funding, but back when I first looked into Lossless, it didn't really have that big funding. But I strongly believed in the technology and the purpose behind it, the problems that it's trying to solve, and the team behind it. But at that point in time, when I had first looked into it, I didn't see that much in the venture capitalist funding. But I was feeling very strongly about what that protocol was trying to do. You can say it was more of a passion alert in some sense, but there's always varying factors in order to weigh. It would not, turn me off, to do that. There are some coins that, for example, are even anonymous in terms of their teams. There's another great one called CAP. This is another one. By the way, this is another one that I discovered through DeFi Llama. So this one was developed by an anonymous group of developers. But if you try the protocol, it's very interesting. And it had a lot of backing. I'm not sure how, but it did. And it has a lot of total value locked. And it also has a lot of, it's been generating revenue for a lot of its holders. Now that's sometimes dangerous, guys. Be careful with that. Whenever I find a protocol that's been able to help people and generate revenue, I'm sometimes skeptical, because those sorts of things, generally speaking, I found are short-lived, because you can't sustain a model like that very easily as more and more people join. From what I've seen. So please do your own research with respect to any revenue generating protocol. Be careful in going too far into anything. Always, take two steps back, one step forward, kind of thing. And just and be careful and never invest anything any more than you're able to lose. But yeah, and this one, for example, like I mentioned, it had an anonymous group of founders, but it was still very, very interesting. So no, I wouldn't turn my back.
Good to know.
I'm just going to check the Discord to see if there's any other possible questions.
I think that you did a great job, and what we'll do is we'll wrap it up quickly so it doesn't drag out, and we'll package it and put it in the resource channel. And then anytime people want to know how we're finding these small coins, they'll know where to go.
Yeah, and hopefully this was useful for everyone. If anybody has any questions, post it in the YouTube comments or even in the Discord. Make sure to join ATCC. We have loads of information for all of our holders all the time. If you purchase one of our NFTs, I haven't regretted it. So it's not financial advice, but
it's a low bar.
Yeah.
Hey, but wait, so we've got Twitter Spaces every week now, where we're going to make the Alpha Council meetings public, and so that could also be a great opportunity to talk more about some of the coins you're looking at and getting some good picks for altcoins to invest in. So come and join us in that. And without further ado, thank you so much, Excalibur. We've been graced with your in real life video of yourself. It's wonderful.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
And appreciate everyone for coming out. And as always, live long and profit.
All right. Bye, guys.